As you can see, this week we're doing the Skaven Hell Pit Abomination. Here's what it looks like pre-painted, or before it's painted. Just a note here, I didn't glue, there's some cables that kind of go on here like that, and this guy isn't actually glued onto the base. But otherwise it's all assembled, and some of the gaps I tried to fill those up where the joints come together. Oh, actually in this back part here, you'll see the wheel, and some of this framing here is not attached. So starting off, got this Krylon Boot Brown base coat, kind of like Khemri Brown in the foundation paints. Whatever you have, just some sort of a brown to start off with. And then the first thing I did is GW Tolarian Flesh. Covered up all of the skin areas. I'm going to have this kind of a light rat flesh color. Gave it a bit of washes, so these are watered down Bal Red and Ogren Flesh, two separate washes. You can see it kind of pooling in some of the cracks, just to give it a bit more depth. Another one there that you can see it's getting reddish in there, and that's still wet. Okay, now for the wooden areas, I'm using some Reapers here. That's Wood Stain Brown is the dark one, as you can see. So I've done that all on there and inside the wheel. Okay, so now I'm going with the Rosy Shadow, and basically I'm painting everything except for the deepest cracks. So this is going on painting almost every single bit of the surface, just avoiding the deep areas and trying to blend it a little bit where applicable. And there's the other side. You can see it's a pretty flat color. Trying to blend in a little bit there. Now what I've done is clear red just around the scarred areas, and that's just to give it sort of an infected look, just to kind of get things reddish. And also I've done the base coat on some of that stuff there. I'll mention those colors later, but that's going to be Bone Shadow. I've got the scorched metal base there, and some of the Stone Shadow as well. And yeah, there's the Bone Shadow. So all the spiky bits, they were all given the bone colors. I've got some that's bolt gun metal, and there's the wood there as well. So there we go. Scorched metal is this one. It's kind of like tin bits for GW. Okay, so here we go. A bit more colors. Building up the bones here. So that's the bone triad. So just working my way up. So Bone Shadow goes the base. Everything but the cracks are aged bone, and then just the edge highlighting is polished bone. And same with the stones here. So Stone Shadow, cover all the flat areas with stone gray, and then the edges with stone, weathered stone. And you can see I've done the finished the highlights on the wheel there, all the wood. That's just that wood shield brown triad. Now with these, I've done a Badab black wash. So anything metal, gave it a Badab black wash, and then highlighting the edges with GW chainmail. And here's just a bit of a close-up on this stone. Not too extreme on the highlighting. Again, just using that triad. Okay, getting closer to being finished here. You can see the bone areas are all done. Flesh is almost done. I just have to do one highlight. Now what I've done here is I've used this olive drab highlight, olive drab triad on these goober bits or whatever it is, and there's another one on one of the arms, and then I painted all the eyes scab red, as well as this hose here, and I glued all these parts together now that I have most of the colors painted. Finishing off the skin here, so just doing the rosy highlight on just the edges, so just bringing out some of the edges there to bring it out a bit more. The rosy skin was that was the medium tone. And you can see there how that kind of looks all red and infected. The tail, I used a slightly different color here. So the bright shadow on everything except for the deep shadows were the same as the other skin. And so bright shadow, bright skin, and bright highlight, just to make that look a little bit different, add a little different color. Now I've got all of the rosy flesh highlight done on here, and as well as all of the bone and whatnot. The silver parts, that's all highlighted. These stitches, those are the rosy highlight, just so it's the same color as the flesh, just red or a pinkish white. And you see there, I've gone around the outside of all those scars just to make them pop a little bit more. Now for the tarnish on the metal, it's one of the last things I needed to do. That's the marine teal, which is very similar to hawk turquoise and dark angel green mixed together. Use that as well. So I thin it down to like a milky consistency and just paint it right in all of the cracks. And then I'm going to highlight that metal later, so it doesn't matter if I get some of the higher areas as well. And I've done the base up. That's just my regular coffee grinds, and then painted over with scorched brown, the dark brown, and then highlighted with beastal brown. And here we go, highlighting the edges there. That's just the tarnished brass, which is kind of like a shining gold or dwarf bronze for Games Workshop. That's what I use just around the edge highlights there. And there we are. We're basically, well, actually, now we are done. So static grass, little spots of that here and there. I don't think I mentioned it, but the warpstone bits, that's just the Games Workshop snot green, scorpion green, and then a little bit of scorpion green and white, and then a Thraka wash. And the red, that was just blood red highlights with a little bit of blaze orange. These rats here on the back, I just did those the same way Games Workshop did for their Doom Wheel on their tutorial. So that was, some of them were Commando Khaki, other ones were Beastal Brown, and one was black, which is Teleran Flesh and Ogren Flesh washes. Nothing too fancy. They're pretty small, so just enough to give them a bit of detail. And we'll just work our way around here. Great fun to put this model together and paint it up. The longest part by far was the first 2 coats of the skin. Once that was done, it kind of went pretty quick. And can't wait to have this on the tabletop. And you can see some of those warpstone pieces there, and some of the stuff there. And a bit of a close-up. Hope you enjoyed it. Check back again for more videos. Talk to you later. Oh, actually, here's a size comparison. So Azhag and a giant. So he's clearly not quite as tall as a giant, but same size base as the Screaming Bell. So it's going to be a pretty big centerpiece on your army, but maybe not the biggest thing on the table.